This is what it looks like to write with stenography. Stenography is a method of text input that allows one to write at conversational speeds. It is primarily used in live captioning and court reporting. Contrary to typing where one key press outputs one letter, Steno uses a chorded keyboard where multiple keys are pressed down. The action of pressing down one or more keys is called a stroke. A stroke is also the name for the group of keys that are pressed down. Each stroke can output parts of a word, entire words, or even phrases. Because of this, your fingers aren't moving very fast when compared to typing. As you can see, I can easily keep up with what I am saying, and my fingers aren't moving all over the place as one might expect with really fast typists. Though, I should note, I am not speaking as fast as I usually do as I am not a professional stenographer, and I've only been learning for about 20 months in my spare time. But even if you only learn up to 2 strokes per second, that's already 100 words per minute or so. This is why stenography is also much more ergonomic than typing. Whenever I have to write for more than 5 minutes, I prefer to use Steno. So how does stenography actually work? In the layout display, you can see the keys I am pressing down in order to make these words. In its most basic form, Steno is a syllabic system where words are written based on how the syllables sound. The left hand is responsible for the beginning consonant, the thumbs are responsible for the vowel, and the right hand deals with the ending consonants. For example, this is how you'd write cat. Similarly, this is how you'd write straps. As for the consonants and vowels that are missing, we use chords to represent these. For example, this is how you'd write dog, and this is how you'd write plate. The TK in D is really just arbitrary as TK doesn't appear in any English words or sounds, so it's safe to assign that to represent D. Same with HR representing L and AEU representing the long A sound. Think about these chords as groups of keys, not groups of letters. The letters are really only there to be able to tell which key is which. Although the keys by themselves represent the sound they are labeled with, when combined with other keys, different sounds can be represented and are often not at all related to the letters they are made up with. This is necessary since the Steno layout has 23 keys, which is not enough to cover all the English sounds. Of course, this is great for single-syllable words, but most words are made up of multiple syllables, so how do they work? In essence, they are simply broken up into their syllables, and each one is stroked separately. For example, to write the word phonetically would look something like this. There are also ways of shortening multisyllable words, such as inversions and dropping unstressed vowels, but these rules vary and are beyond the scope of this video. This diagram shows all the missing sounds that can be found on the Steno layout. Of course, remembering all of this takes a bit of time. However, it must be stressed that Steno is not about simply memorizing a shortcut to write every single word. There are the aforementioned missing sound chords, as well as rules which are memorized. These rules are encapsulated in what's known as a Steno theory. As long as one knows their theory well enough, they will be able to write any word they have never even seen before. With that said, many stenographers also use the concept known as briefs. Briefs are abbreviated and sometimes arbitrary ways of writing words and phrases quicker. For example, this stroke is pronounced as splog and it outputs the word splotography. And this is the brief I use for the phrase, for example, which is pronounced as forks. You may be wondering how these are dealt with since they don't follow any Steno theory. Well, the truth is, Steno actually uses dictionaries to translate from the keys I am pressing to the words you are seeing. This is what a Steno dictionary looks like. It is completely editable and I can change it in any way I'd like, regardless of if the changes follow any rules or not. If I wanted to add a new dictionary entry, it's simple. The rules of the theory aren't hard-coded at all and are only used to initially construct the dictionary. So while the Steno theory isn't known to my software, the words in the dictionary, for the most part, all follow it. If one wants to change their theory, all they must do is change the dictionary. This means that you could also use Steno for other languages. All you need is a different dictionary and you can start writing multilingual Steno. Here you can see me writing in Vietnamese with my Vietnamese Steno system. Going back to English Steno, what if I came across a word that's not in my dictionary? Well, I could add it fairly quickly, or just fall back on fingerspelling, like this, by writing the individual letters like regular typing. It is quite a bit slower, capped at around 50 to 60 words per minute, but that's why stenographers have to be faster than speech and not just on par with it. So how about symbols? How are they dealt with? For symbols that I use often, I just use strokes that remind me of the names of the symbols or strokes that have memorable patterns. These are just some of the symbols I use. I use paren for parentheses, this stroke with symmetrical index fingers for the question mark, and this symmetrical stroke for a period. For a more complete and systematic way of writing symbols, definitely check out Emily's symbol dictionary. If you want to learn more about how Steno works, I made a much more detailed video last year, which you should check out. I've also made a beginner's guide to Plover if you want to learn this skill. Now, the inevitable question everyone will ask is, how long does it take to learn? This varies a lot from person to person, and it depends on your definition of having learned something. Some people may take a year to get up to 100 words per minute, while other people may take just 2 months. Personally, it took me about 3 months to get comfortable with Steno. After another month, I was able to write most material at 100 words per minute. After a total of 6 months or so, I was regularly reaching 150 words per minute on short type racer quotes. For these 6 months, I had practiced about an hour or 2 hours every day. Afterwards, I stopped actively practicing Steno and only used it for chatting on Discord or writing documents. In the last month, however, I've started to practice Steno again, and am now working on 180 words per minute dictations. I have now been using Steno for about 20 months, and I have a few practice videos linked in the description if you want to see how fast I am.